Having a little technical difficulties, forgive me. Welcome back, episode number 12. Today I'm dropping in alone to get a subject that I believe is very important to be covered, especially my opinion and some of the debates that have been had recently, or that I've had for the last couple of years, regarding a certain orange man. In specific, how he handled COVID. I want to go back to the beginning. When he was running for office, it was quite clear the establishment did not think Donald Trump had a chance. It was clear how they mocked him, ridiculed him, and belittled anybody that would take him seriously for the longest run until they realized what kind of momentum he had. And then the narrative shifted. They became personal attacks. He was accused of being a racist, accused of being misogynist, and we had the audio tape pop up and all of these things about his businesses and about his history that just were never ever brought up in the past, especially by the media or Hollywood and his friends at the supposed elitist, whatever you want to call them. They never had a problem with him until he ran for office, and until it was actually abundantly evident that he had a good chance of getting in office. And I'm going back to that for a reason. I want to know why it's so easily forgotten how much of an outsider it seems he is or was. And George Carlin used to say, "It's a big club and you ain't in it." Well, either one of two things. Donald Trump was A, not really in the club, or B, this was an elaborate coaxing of the independent patriotic spirit and the outsider outlier spirit that exist in this country. The rebels and those that were over the establishment and being mistreated, overlooked, and dealt with abhorrently. Our constitutional rights have been all but eroded. We saw presidents that offered a glimmer of hope in the beginning when they were running for office or when they were elected, but time and time again, they showed their true colors. They were loyal to the warmongering, big pharmaceutical Wall Street giants. They bailed out all the wrong people and forgot about all the little ones, all the people that put them in office to begin with. Not that we actually put people in office. I would say lobbying put them in office, because just to get the ticket, just to get the nomination, there's dollars that you pretty much have to sign up for to enable you to have the campaign and the strategic mindset to actually win. APAC, other huge lobbies that lobby on behalf of causes that are foreign causes. They are not causes for you and me. They do not care about us. They care about the central banks, keeping control of fiat and debt through credit. They want to control all of the currencies in the world. That is clear. It has been their methodology for pretty much enslaving smaller countries and bigger countries, all of us. But I'm really wanting to talk about it because I keep seeing these so-called intellectuals that are either A, telling people it's completely pointless and dooming them because Donald Trump is the not hopeful candidate or president that we all, or some of us, hope he is, that he's just one of their puppets. He's just one of their characters in this grand scheme, and the whole world is a stage. So to give up hope, or they're saying he's complicit and that he rushed these vaccines and pushed these vaccines on us all with bad intentions. Now, I have several issues with this. Project Warp Speed. People love to bring it up and point at Donald Trump as if he had done something horribly wrong by Operation Warp Speed, by the declaration of emergency, and all the other ways that he handled COVID. However, I don't see many people steel-manning his argument or steel-manning the argument for Project Warp Speed. And let's just think about this in terms of Donald Trump never wins the election. Donald Trump doesn't disrupt the 16-year plan to destroy America, which, if you're not familiar, you should probably look that up and have it, have a gander. Let's just say that. Obama and Hillary were the cornerstones and the implementation of the New World globalist order to destroy America, because we were the last beacon of independent freedom, and we were the only thing in their way. Let's be real. We were the only thing in their way. If you weren't paying attention to the European Union 10 years ago, or the WHO, or the Bilderberg Group, or any of these globalist, Zionist, Kabbalist programs that are most definitely set at our destruction and are set upon our destruction and our enslavement worldwide into this one world beast system. Wake up. Wake up. Go do a little bit of research prior to Donald Trump ever running for office. Because I remember on the streets of New York, the people celebrating the victory of Obama when he got elected. I remember it clear as day, like it was yesterday. And a lot of people, God bless their heart, thought this means that racism in America is dead. And that message was shared by quite a good bit, that if we didn't vote for Obama, we were racist, and that our racist past was just going to show itself again. So some people were guilted into it. And he spoke a good game. He was a hell of a narrator, a hell of a speaker, an orator, I guess. He was well-groomed for the position. And it was, if you weren't really doing any digging or any research into who he was, where he came from, how he got to where he was at the time, you had no questions. It was him or Bush. And let's be honest, Bush is a hard sell. I spoke up against Obama, living in New York amongst liberals that I would consider myself liberal then as well, but amongst liberals that just could not hear any points against Obama. They just couldn't hear it. They couldn't understand it. They couldn't bring themselves to believe I had dare utter any questions about this man. Who funded him, how he got into college, what he did in college, what his actual accolades as far as politics were. If he was born in the United States, if you do recall, the birther community. Donald Trump was part of that, by the way. The birther community that actually just wanted to see valid paperwork proving he was an American citizen in the first place and valid and eligible for office. Oh, you were a conspiracy theorist and then some. Had you dare even breach the subject. Hillary was not supposed to lose, just like Obama. Just like Obama. First woman president. We were going to break more boundaries. We were going to show that we were not a sexist, what's the word? Patriarchy. That our history was just that history, and we were expanding our horizons and allowing a woman to take the lead. Feminism personified in politics. And if you had anything negative to say about Hillary at all, well, you were a sexist. And, God forbid you be that. As this stuff was shoved down our throats, this political correctness, which is communist, was shoved down our throats, we were made to believe that we were outliers if we were to question Obama, or we were to question Hillary, or we were to question voting for these people that were going to break these boundaries and help us become a better country and restore our reputation abroad. Because, I hope it's quite evident our reputation abroad was kind of decimated. It was decimated from wars that were fought under false pretenses, from the things both above the table and under the table, what the media was willing to share and what they weren't willing to share, what they would allow into mainstream here as far as thought processes on Iraq or Libya or wherever else we were destabilizing governments and installing coups. She wasn't supposed to lose. Long story short, she was supposed to win, and that was abundantly clear. Go back, Trump is elected. All the election deniers were on the left, Hillary included. It was rigged. It was rigged. It was Russia. It was Russia. It was Russia. He's a Russian asset. He's going to destroy the country. He's going to make World War III. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. All from the left. I don't see any of them getting charges or indictments, but we'll come to that later. You should absolutely know, just based upon the way that they treated him during the election and when he was elected, that was not supposed to happen. The establishment did not, plan for Donald Trump, nor think he would be an issue. And when he won, they were not prepared for that. Can we agree on that? If we can't agree on that, then the rest of the debate or the conversation is pointless. It's null and void. They were going to do anything and everything they could to get him out of office, to destroy him, to destroy his reputation, and to make an example of anyone and everyone that voted for him. You basket of deplorables. How could you? You're sexist, you're misogynist, you're racist. All of the worst names that they could throw out. You're going to call us all of that? Like Andrew Breitbart said, war. You're going to call all of us at that because we had the fundamental belief that we needed to do just a little bit of research and a little bit of diligent attention to be paid to the process in itself. And that we weren't just going to vote for somebody based upon the color of their skin or their sex. You said the worst things about us. I've lost friendships over this. I was called a racist because I was supporting Trump before he was elected. I want some of those friends that aren't around anymore and left my life a while ago to come back around at some point and remind me I'm a racist and remind me of all the mistakes that I made that have, if nothing else, shined the glorious light of truth and fact upon what's really going on. What's really going on. You're labeled something and you're attacked because you have most likely won debate. Slander is the tool of the loser. When debate is lost, slander is the tool of the loser. I believe it's Socrates. The reality is these people cannot present an argument and win debate based upon facts. It's all emotion. It's all their feelings. And I am a big facts over feelings guy. If I lose friendships over it, so be it. If the truth destroys something, maybe it needed to be destroyed. And I believe that. So, Trump's in office. They tried all kinds of things before they ever came to their Hail Mary. But I believe their Hail Mary was COVID. COVID. It wasn't the first time this script had been used. It was not the first time that medical tyranny would be shoved down our throats through fear-mongering and their little mouthpiece, the mainstream legacy media. It was not the first time. However, this time they were going to do exercises and extreme in-depth planning and get on a worldwide scale the plan that would destabilize just enough and cripple us just enough that Donald Trump would not be able to overcome them or overcome it. And if you don't understand that, well, you're irrational and you're probably operating on a daily basis from a place of emotional instability. And I'm going to say that again. You're emotionally unstable. You're manipulated, you're indoctrinated, and you're emotionally unstable. Now, I'm not going to throw blind allegiance to Donald Trump. I'm going to pay attention to what he does and what he says and all of the things that are said and done against him. Steel man the argument. If Donald Trump is involved in this, he is a hell of a good actor and he's willing to look like the fall guy and like a criminal. And he's willing to have his reputation destroyed And he's still going to do things that ironically serve us patriots and people that believe in freedom very well. And if you can't see it, it's most likely because of your emotions. Let's talk about it. So, COVID. We see this nonsense out of China, this fear mongering videos and the stories, and they escaped flu from the lab. And it's clear the media is going to run with this, and it's going to be a pandemic. Now, once again, we could have the debate on whether or not COVID exists, whether or not there is a boogeyman flu, whether they were putting this into people via syringes, or whether they created something in a lab that they now were letting loose on the public. All irrelevant. All of it is irrelevant at this point in this conversation, because Trump was presented with choices, and he was presented with choices from an establishment which was stacked against him as far as facts and opinions and experts. It's obvious. Fauci's been in the government for how long? He was the highest paid employee for how long? And he's the one that's in charge of our response to this. And he's feeding you the data, and he's telling you the pros and cons of the decisions that you're going to help make. You're going to have to let your experts take the lead on oh so much. Because yes, you can find and dig up some conflicting advice and other experts, but the establishment, which has already tried to bury you for years and has already tried to tarnish your reputation to the point of no return, is going to come at you even worse with this, because lives are on the line. Desperate people out there that are going to die via desperate measures because of a pathogen. You have to protect them. That is your first and foremost fundamental responsibility as President of the United States, to do the best thing for your citizens. He's presented with the absolute outlandish possibility that this pandemic is going to carry on for years and years and years, and that we had to develop a vaccine for this just to save humanity. Think about that for a moment. Before you even bring up Operation Warp Speed, you have to know what he was facing before this was a possibility or an idea. And why would Operation Warp Speed need to come about? Think about it. If you were the president and you were faced with a panel of experts and all of your medical establishment who told you, all right, look, this is going to shut down the world. This is going to kill millions upon millions and millions of people. It's going to ravage communities, especially those at risk. It's going to kill children. It's going to destroy economies in the world. We have to shut down. We have to mask. We have to socially distance. We have to stop all non-essential workers from going to work. Small businesses, they need to shut down because they're not essential. There should be no travel unless it's absolutely essential at all, not in and out of the country, not around your communities. The world is going to stop, and it has to stop until we have this vaccine. Think about that for a moment. In that, facing that kind of analysis from all of the experts, and with the media portraying what they're portraying around the world as something out of a film, basically, you've been conditioned to accept this possibility and this reality by movies, by crap, by propaganda. But you're the president, and now it's your decision. Are you going to indefinitely shut down the world and allow indefinite lockdowns, forced testing? You're going to tell people that they can't travel? You're going to tell anybody that doesn't comply they're domestic terrorists, and you're going to lock them up? Are you going to destabilize your entire country? And our infrastructure was already taking a hit just upon the news. Are you going to doom our infrastructure? Are you going to cause food shortages? Are you going to stop international trade completely? So it's a vaccine that they tell you that is needed and is the only way forward. All these other measures are just temporary for survival until the vaccine is available. And what's the timeline for the vaccine? What did they tell him? 5 to 7 years? 10 years? So you're put in a position where you're going to shut down the world. You're going to kill all the small businesses and all the individuals that are non-essential for 5 to 7 to 10 years waiting on a vaccine. That's what brought up Operation Warp Speed. The alternatives that he was facing. Now, let's just say right there he goes, all this is bullshit. I'm going to war with all of you for telling me this, for putting me in this position. You're doing your best to destabilize America first, to get Trump, me, myself, whatever, out of office. This is war. Let's say he calls it for what it is right then. Who is he up against? Let's be honest. Who is he up against? The European Union? The WHO? Everybody here? All the media? So Patriots got his back. Let's say 100 million of us got his back. It's us versus the world then? And we're just supposed to say, let's go to war, forget your advice, civil unrest. That doesn't work either. He has to solve this dilemma that, like, nobody's really been put in this situation before, but he has to solve this dilemma and risk as few lives as possible. And he has to shine a light on the entire process and all the people that are actually responsible for this. Because if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't shine a light on it and there's not enough awareness on all of the characters that are playing their roles in this heinous war crime, then they're just going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. We might slow them down. We might derail them for a bit, but they're going to come back. Their control is it's too deep, it's too wide. So Operation Warp Speed, you call him crazy for it. You call him a vaccine salesman for it. I'm calling him a genius for it. And I'm going to steelman this argument based upon the premise that really he understood. His back was against the wall. And he had to go the lesser of two evils, and he wanted to win the long-term war, not just the battle, not just a short-term battle. Okay, we need a vaccine. All right. He probably had experts on both sides that were telling him, yo, this vaccine thing is crazy. This is not gonna be good for people. This is probably evil intended. And then he had people that reminded him of the power of placebo and the power of the mind. What is the percentage of the population that has been born and raised believing they needed pharmaceutical interventions for all kinds of things, let alone for COVID? But people really, truly believed that once they got sick, they needed pharmaceutical intervention for all kinds of afflictions, and that this was their only path to cure or to being better or to being well. The doctor had to prescribe them something to make them better from an illness, some pathogen from the outside. It wasn't their actions, their activities, or the environment that they were creating with poisons and thoughts and all of the other things that we know are detrimental to your health. There's a lot of people that do not believe in any of that. Drink tap water every day, eat stuff out of boxes every day, drink alcohol every day, take drugs. There's people that do absolute ridiculous things to themselves all the time and never once factor that into the equation of why they're sick or why they're ill. They just run out to the expert, to the doctor, they get the prescription filled, and then they move on. And if they end up with 5 to 10 prescriptions at the end of the day or at the end of 30 years, that's what it is to them. Now let's talk about the power of the mind. Let's talk about the power of placebo, because if you believe it, it's quite possible you're making it real. And I'm not saying that we should consume crap. I'm not saying that we should believe in pharmaceutical intervention. But if that is your methodology, that's your survival technique, and that's what your belief system is, that's what your ideology is, then it might be detrimental to tell you that you have no intervention available. There is no way to save yourself from the boogeyman that the media keeps shoving down your throat every night. And you're conditioned to go sit in front of that television every single day, every single night, and listen to them tell you about the boogeyman and about how many Trumpers there are out there that do not care about your health or your well-being or your life. They won't wear a mask. They won't socially distance. They won't stop going to the beach. They won't stop going on hikes. These racists, these bigots, these people that put Trump into office are responsible for your well-being. They're taking your life into their hands every day. And if you don't think that all that played a factor into the decision for warp speed, well, then you aren't capable of steel manning their argument. Trump, I absolutely was put in a position where he had to go, dang, there's all these people that believe in vaccines that are going to need a vaccine just to undo some of the damage done by legacy media and this fear-mongering campaign, because there's severe damage done. Traumatized people are damaged people, and we're going to need to give them any and every hope / assistance in recovery. 30% of vaccines were placebos, right? And there are studies and data showing that the clot shots, the kill shots, were aimed at red states and were disproportionately aimed at conservatives and races. How come whites and blacks were affected more than other races? And how come the least affected was Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese? Valid questions. Back to Trump, back to warp speed. He leans on the pharmaceutical companies. He leans on all the power of the federal government, all the power of the U.S. military to rapidly produce this vaccine. Why? To avoid the indefinite lockdowns, to avoid killing every small business there is, to avoid putting every non-essential into a Hunger Games scenario, to stop civil unrest, to, albeit slow down, but still continue worldwide trade. Think about the absolute heinous consequences of not. If you haven't, you need to shut up when it comes to the vaccine program and Operation Warp Speed and Trump. Just shut up, sit back, and see what happens. Because this ain't over. We're in the midst of this. Do you think we're going to make it to the election? Do you think we're going to make it to the election? I know legacy media would really like to have Trump eliminated from the possibility of running. 14th Amendment play is what they're going for right now. All these indictments. They're trying to render him unable to run for office. And they're trying to offer you any and every possible alternative there is. Vivek Ramaswamy. Where did this guy come from? Have you asked yourself where Vivek Ramaswamy came from? There's a video going around an Anomaly, I believe. A social media guy, independent journalist, who showed he was straight up plagiarizing Obama. Skinny man in a suit doing up here on this debate stage. Oh, you got a funny name, and I believe I can run for office. And it is a script. It's just another actor. Where did his funding come from? He said he took a scholarship from Soros because he didn't have the money when he was a millionaire already. Pharmaceutical company gets funding by BlackRock and Vanguard and all these big boys that, you're only getting funding from and you're only getting invested in if you're part of the club. This guy pops out of left field with a suit and tie on and a clean cut image, and instead of sticking to the way he's voted or the principles that he had for the last several years, he's all of a sudden a Republican. And he's all of a sudden for all of our rights, and he's going to dismantle the FBI, and he's going to tell you it's the managerial class in the United States. It really is just out of control. but he isn't going to say a word about who's pulling the strings, who's installing the managers, who are they indebted to. They are bought puppets. Say it, Vivek. I'm waiting on you to say it. Central bank. An indefinite amount of money and will print more and more and more at their leisure while extending credit to any and everyone they can and getting us into debt. Will help their hedge funds buy up all the property and assets, and what they can't buy through negotiations or through leaning on people or through monopolizing and forcing their way in, they'll burn your ass out. They will use their little weapons of weather to burn you out, to destabilize your community, and to acquire what they want to acquire when they want to acquire it. And you think Donald Trump is responsible for all this and unelectable, or you can't vote for him again. It blows my mind. We've been at war my entire lifetime. But the last few years, it should be evident to everybody, we are at war. They are at war with the mind, spirit, and body of all of us. If you ain't in the club, well, you ain't shit. They are at war with you. Eventually, they will enslave you and your future generations. This is part of their plan. If you're not aware of it, you should do a little bit of reading. Go look around the internet. The information's out there. There have been plenty of people that worked within government agencies at the highest levels who have come out and had books to write, things to say, and their own stories to share. We're going to call them all profiteering kooks? I don't think so. Bill Cooper was not a profiteering kook. People changed their opinions while they worked for the federal government on aliens because they saw what the government was doing. That they had technologies they were hiding from us, and that they must be hiding these for a reason. And that they were somewhat kind of backhanding people into believing in aliens and extraterrestrials by their own programs and by their own coercion. I'm going to show them a little bit of this and that here and there, and these compartmentalized employees will be sharing the narrative that we need them to. We have aliens. The aliens are here, all right? You ever think about COVID being the alien invasion? The foreigner invading the world, rendering us all useless, essentially, or, non-essential, a lot of us. We depend on those powers that be, the health organizations around the world, to save us. And if we don't follow their guidelines, well, they'll just throw you in a camp. COVID camp in Australia. Did you see those little isolation bunkers that they were putting people in? You listened to World War II narrative and that didn't mean anything to you? That is mind-boggling. The lies that have been perpetrated about Donald Trump should make you think about the lies that have been perpetrated throughout history, and the victors write these lies. Don't kid yourself. There are documentaries online about World War II that each and every citizen in the world, every person in the world needs to go and watch. They need to go and sit down and do some reading on the subjects. Solzhenitsyn, read about what they did in Russia and the starvation camps and the work camps. Read about what was done to their brethren and who's responsible for this. Because they're trying again. At all costs, they are trying again. I'm not even going to go into crazy of a conspiracy on this, but I want you to be open to the possibility that what you've been watching for the last couple of years is a movie. It's theater. It's theater to wake you up. You are the sleeping giant, which awake will end this tyranny once and for all because it will unite us. The alien invasion in which we all need to unite to confront together is here, all right? They're called communist, globalist, Globalists, secret society members. You tools, Freemasons, if you are Gentiles, you are just tools of the tyranny, of the enslavers. Talmud. We talked about the Talmud. These people believe we are nothing more than cattle. We are livestock. It's okay to lie to us. It's okay to manipulate us. It's okay to kill us if we stand in their way. Our enslavement is all that matters. Their Messiah and our enslavement. That's it. Stop with the big orange man is bad bullshit. Enough is enough. While I'm not going to leave it up to Donald Trump to save us or to save the world, I am going to steel man his argument for a minute. If he really was that much of a threat that they would go to all the lengths that they have thus far, well, then there is something to be hopeful for there. Whether it's who approached Donald Trump and got him to run for office in the first place, or who Donald Trump really is. Who is his uncle, John Trump? What did he know? What about technologies that are hidden from us? What about free energy? What else was he going to do that was so detrimental to the New World Order? And if he's part of the New World Order and he's helping usher it all in, well, bravo, Trump, bravo. Oscar would not come close to cutting it. My man. If he's going along with it and he's part of it and he's their tool, well, I commend him on his acting ability. And I commend him on the deception that has taken place. But I don't believe that. I believe he signed executive orders knowing that the election would be stolen from him, and he put contingencies in place. It's called devolution. If you haven't heard of it, look that one up. Devolution. Contingency of government. The executive orders that Trump signed that Biden extended somehow, which would pretty much insinuate our elections were interfered with and that there's hell to pay. And we're witnessing it. But you have to wake up. You got to stop screaming orange man bad. You have to demand justice. All of you. We need enough of people awake so that when Donald Trump or the U.S. military or whomever does deliver justice, we aren't freaking out. Karens aren't running around with their heads cut off like headless chickens, losing their minds. Antifa isn't gaining traction or creating more civil unrest than they have before. And that you Freemasons aren't taking to the streets because your higher ups told you to, or told you that it was all over. You don't think that can happen? I think that's part of it as well. You oath takers with loyalties elsewhere, allegiances elsewhere, have been used. You've been puppeted. The puppeteers have had full-on control of you. And no matter what you think the goals of your organizations are, or what you think they were created for. Whether you believe in God or whether you are godless, soulless, evil person to begin with. It doesn't matter. Because you took oaths that were made to organizations that had plenty to hide from you all the way until your last day on earth. And you've been used. You think people believing in the Bible or in creation or in Jesus is something to mock and ridicule? Well, you that are worshiping false gods, you Moloch, Baal worshippers, you real pseudoscientists, you hidden hand corrupted individuals, you will be mocked for your role in all of this. Your legacies will not be what you thought they were going to be. The time for you to make a stand, for you to speak out, is dwindling. It is dwindling like the sands of time. It is escaping you rapidly. Orange man bad. They just keep pointing the finger at Trump. We'll just keep talking about Trump. We'll just keep talking about Trump. We'll talk about who we're going to vote for next. We'll talk about which one of these Republican candidates is actually going to make change. Mm-mm. 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 Sorry. It's not going to cut it. Either Trump is that beacon of hope, and all of the evidence is going to be, presented here soon, and we will see tribunals play out, or we are all in for a really, really bumpy road. And the food shortages and all of the other things that you've been warned about are a lot closer than you could imagine. And the BRICS nations and the insinuation that the dollar is dead, and it's inevitable, and it's only a matter of time. That is either really good for us because we're going to escape this fiat corrupted system and we're going to get out from underneath the thumb of the Federal Reserve, or we're fucked. That's it. So, I'm not here to doom you. I'm here to tell you that I 100% believe that exposure is all we're waiting on. We're waiting on enough awareness so that when justice comes, it's rational. In the court of public opinions, it's very important. We all need to be aware and believe in what's coming. Nothing can stop what is coming. It is coming. And I'm not saying it's not going to be a bumpy ride till we get there, but what I am saying is when enough of us are aware, it ends. It ends. I'm Josh Button. I'm sure I'll be back with a little bit more of this at some point in time. But look up devolution. Choose to see the silver lining. Stop dooming those around you because you're not ready to believe Trump ain't such a bad guy, or that Trump had a very important place and a very important role in the exposure of evil, in the exposure of tyranny, in the exposure of these globalists and all of their puppets, not just the ones that you're aware of, the Federal Reserve and all of their puppets, not just the ones that you're going to go cast a vote for because they speak a good game. I'm Josh Button. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you all again soon.